Today's episode is brought to you by Delaware Orthopedic Specialists. The birds are back, and you know what that means. Dr. Mesa joining the pod on a weekly basis, providing the best up-to-the-minute updates on all of our Eagles. Let's hope that we don't have too much to talk to him about with injured birds this season, but he and any of the other wonderful providers at DOS can talk to you about ending injury that you or a loved one have been dealing with for far too long. The only fellowship-trained surgery center here in the state of Delaware, why would you trust anyone other than the specialists? Them being specialists means that they are specialized in each and every part of the body. So if you come in looking for a specific doctor for a specific part of the body, they've got you covered. They're going to hold your hand and walk you through every step of the process, and you're going to make sure that you're happy with all of your results. 302-655-9494 is how you get a hold of them on the phone, or head on over to delortho.com to schedule your appointment today. After they provide you with wonderful care, head on over to Google, give them a great review, and let them know that Talkin 215 sent you.
Welcome to Talkin 215, your go-to podcast for everything you need to know about Philly sports. Whether you bleed green, trust the process, fly with the Flyers, or fight with the Fightins, this is the place where we break down Broad Street. Jake, Sean, and Joey deep dive into the heart of Philly sports culture, breaking down games, roster moves, and sharing the stories that make the 215 truly legendary. So grab a cheesesteak, settle in, and let's get to Talkin 215. Now here's your host, Jake Biasato.
Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Talkin 215. We got a cast of characters with us as always. We got Papa Sean in the house. We got Coach Joey, and then we got Hot Steaks. Gentlemen, how the hell are we?
Get it? I'm
great.
More amped up than
better
ever.
Than most.
Ever.
I'm feeling better than most, Joey.
Yeah. Better than most is the vibes I'm kind of getting from you guys on your socials, seeing what you have to say about all this nonsense going around. Obviously, you'll have their socials in the description, everything. Everybody worth a follow here. But yeah, you guys are pretty optimistic. We'll start right off the bat with this A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts drama. If you listen to WIP, you'd think this team is about to just be disbanded. They're about to just completely throw in the towel the entire season and probably for the entire franchise and never play another football game again. But that's why you don't listen to WIP. You listen to Talkin 215 here. Brandon Graham, obviously on the Brandon Graham show, had some statements. We're going to go over that a little bit and give our thoughts and opinions on it. But like, obviously there's something to be concerned about, but I do think the overall picture is people are just finding something to complain about, something to be negative about, because overall it's a pretty damn good stretch of Eagles football.
Damn good
9 in a row.
Yeah, damn good regime. We can't. It's like this fan base starts to self-sabotage. Like, we can't believe everything's going well. And AJ Brown, look, I think again, another situation where he changed his picture to the Joker on Instagram. He is saying, look, I'll be the villain and be misunderstood. That's how he feels. That's his like alter ego, is the Joker. Everyone called him Batman, right? They did the Batman thing for a while. He's actually the Joker. He's incredibly misunderstood, creates so much chaos. But in reality, he just wants, to me, in reality, he just wants to win. He wants to be the best player ever. He wants to be, he's competitive. And so I really think that it's more so this, well, everything's going so well that we need something to go wrong. This can't be going so well. And so I'm not overreacting to it as much as.
An Eagles fan base refuses to just be happy. That's just what we've seen throughout our history. There's got to be, you can't just sit there and enjoy. And I actually had a couple listeners reach out and kind of thought that A.J. Brown was actually trolling with his talking with the media. They were like, oh, he had a smirk at the end. I think there was a little truth behind it and everything. But some people were like, I think the whole thing was just intentionally stirring shit up when behind the scenes, everything's all good. I don't know if it's that far, but that's just what a couple listeners reached out and said.
It's funny, man. It is hilarious how we as fans can become so fickle and say, I'm tired of the mundane coach speak of, oh, we just got to play better. We got to play up to the standard. We got to do our best. And I want players to show their personality. So the second AJ is frustrated, and every single person on this podcast knows that the passing offense hasn't been good. When someone asks what part of the offense needs to be improved, and he says passing. You notice he said passing. People don't say that a lot. Passing is the OC. Passing is the wide receivers, the offensive line, the quarterback, the running back, the pass protection, the tight ends, the scheme, the concepts. It's not just the quarterback. But because people just want to put everything in a box with black or white, we don't know how to do that. And I hate, and I mean hate with a capital H, having to say what I'm about to say because it comes off so damn, like, get off my lawn. And it comes off so egotistical, like, look at me. But you can tell sometimes of people that haven't been in a heated argument with one of their friends. You could tell sometimes that people haven't been in a locker room and seen a fight. You could tell sometimes of people that haven't, gone 2-3 days because they're never talking to this person again. And then they're the best of friends by the weekend. Like, I'm here to tell you, like, look, some of y'all know I play flag football around the country, right? And flag football is not tackle football. Don't laugh. Don't do all this stuff. Like, oh, what do you know? We had a game the other night, which is why I wasn't on the podcast. And my quarterback threw a ball to me that I had to dive for. I was wide open. I ended up being down. I had to dive for on the ground and caught it. And I'm sitting there going, damn, lead me. Like, what are you doing? Lead me. And he's screaming at me like, I didn't know you were so slow. I thought you were actually going to run, maybe get out the dirt and we could score. So we're arguing back and forth and we're up 20. We're arguing back and forth and we're up 20 because we expect perfection. You ever hear Jalen say the standard is the standard and we didn't live up to that? So you want my guy, AJ, to just collect his check, go through the motions, do that? Or do you want him to play up to the standard that they talk about all the time? The standard that they preach, perfection, dominating. So when they don't dominate, they're going to argue. And again, guys, they're best friends. Stop this shit. Y'all did this 2 years straight. Can we just stop with it? You always come up with these narratives and they don't work. So just cut it out. Sirianni today was like, they eat lunch every day in the cafeteria. What are y'all talking about? Like, I'm in the building. Chill. So just let it go, man.
Yeah. Sirianni.
Notice how Coach made sure that everybody knew he caught the ball and they were up 20. So
Yeah,
he just, subtly put that in there. He traveled the world playing football. Oh, and I also caught it. Oh, and we were also up 20, but whatever.
Yeah, but
my point is, like, I'm trying to relate that to.
I'm just messing.
It's not like we're losing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're winning the game, and two people that are best friends are still upset with each other.
No, preach though, because everybody knows intangibles and human things are they transcend through any level of competition, like, and friendship and things like that, and everybody can relate to that. And that's why it's so cool to watch sports, because we actually can relate to these athletes in different ways, on a personal level. And people, right, there's some people who haven't had a friend like that, a relationship like that with a friend, and then there's others who have, some more competitive people out there. So I know I have, for sure. I'm actually in a situation right now where I haven't talked to one of my best friends in like 6 months because we got in an argument like 6 months ago. So, or maybe like 4. But yeah, that's what I got. So I feel you, AJ. I'm excited for this team. They're going to band together from this. I promise.
I don't even know, like, okay, so he makes a comment, right, about the passing, right, which seemed actually perfectly in line, because clearly the running game is something that doesn't need much improvement. It's what's carrying the offense. So what's left? It's passing. It's the other half. Right. So that comment in and of itself didn't really sound any alarms to me, right? And I'm watching the game again, and I mean, there's a couple different body language things where the guy runs a go route, and he may have had a step on his guy, and he shows his frustration. But I mean, that seems par for the course for any sort of like excellent wide receiver. Like, he's not on the sideline freaking out. Like, he's not following Jalen on the sidelines like, T.O. McNabb. He's not up his ass like, dude, throw me the damn ball. There's no shouting. Like, this was literally a post-game interview in which AJ's smiling. Like, I get that there's to be frustrated. We're coming up on 3/4 of the way through the season, right? And this passing offense doesn't look as dynamic as it should at times, right? I have no clue how. Well, actually, I do have a clue. So what I think of it is anytime you have any sort of traumatic experience, right, that negative kind of sticks in your head for years and years and years and years. So when you have a bad thought about a guy like Jalen Hurts, right, you think the guy can't read a defense in 2021. As soon as that starts to flare up, where he's kind of looking on, at least on TV, like he's struggling to read a defense, boom, pops right up in your head. That negative emotion comes running right to the forefront. So you have a bunch of guys that originally thought at one point that he couldn't read a defense, or that his arm strength wasn't strong enough, or he couldn't make past his first read and he struggled. All those things immediately came to the forefront. He's not allowed to have a good game without seeing that, or a bad game without seeing that happen, because that was the case for his first season, maybe season and a half or so. So that's what you're seeing is all those people that quite literally remembered something from 3 years ago and then forgot everything leading up to this point now.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, look, somebody that I've just, anytime it's brought up, I just have only positive thoughts about. It's got to be Dr. Mason, our friends over at Delaware Orthopedic Specialists. Doc, we're talking about this drama that hyped up by WIP and by other pundits and other talking heads in Philadelphia between AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. You're at every home game. You bleed green. You've seen a lot of Eagles teams. You're probably following Eagles closest in the midst of that T.O. McNabb drama. What are your thoughts on everything going on between our star quarterback and wide receiver right now?
Well, I personally think it's much ado about nothing. I agree. I think it's the heat of battle. You say something and then Brandon Graham says something out of context and everybody blows it up. I mean, it's completely different than the T.O. McNabb situation. I mean, they were joking, but they really did not like each other. Someone mentioned earlier, these guys hang out, they eat lunch together. These guys are friends, and it's okay to express your frustrations right after a game. And I think that's all he did. I mean, the game was a bad game. And I think part of this stems from the fact that last year ended so poorly. And in the beginning of the season, Jalen still had some turnovers and they changed it around, and he's not, I think there is an element of trepidation for him at this point. He's afraid to throw the pick, in my opinion. I think he's really has to see the receiver open to throw it, and that is why he's hesitant a lot of times. I think he's got in his head that turnovers equal losses. So I think that's part of it, and I think he's just got to snap out of it. If I were the Eagles, I mean, you're pretty much locked into the number 2 seed. I'd say let it rip, because at some point you're going to need to throw the ball, and you can't be afraid of it. And I think that's the biggest element. I think AJ is trying in his own way to kind of snap him out of this funk he's in.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's like you'd shut up so many people if you just had a game where it's like, you know what? If we lose, we're still probably going to be the number 2 seed. Let's go out there and just put our offense out on display. And most of the people's worries are, including myself, it's like, yeah, we are so lucky to have Saquon going nuclear. He's on pace to break so many records. He's winning us games. He's just putting up numbers that are unheard of in today's NFL. But there's always the risk, and we're going to be talking to you about a number of injuries coming up, but there's always the risk of injury. There's always the risk of just having a bad day. I mean, he is human after all. He might not average 7.5 yards per carry one game. And our defense might have some days where either somebody's out or somebody else doesn't play well, to where we're going to need to come from behind late in the game. And luckily, the Eagles really haven't had to rely on Jalen Hurts to go out there and win them a game. I was talking with our buddy Chase U today, and I was like, Jalen's had some great games this year, like some truly great games this year. But has he gone out and won us a game at the end of the game? And again, that's not a knock on him. That's saying we haven't been in that position. And we both were like, I don't think so. He's had great games that they don't win without him playing great, but I don't think there was a game where he went out at the end and he won them that game. And I guess a lot of people's concerns are, will he be able to do that if that situation arises? Because obviously in the playoffs, it's much more likely you're going to come into a situation where it's not going to be a runaway game where you can rely wholeheartedly 90% on the rushing offense. And so it just kind of puts that not doubt, but like Sean said, that thought in your mind of, oh, can he do it? I haven't seen it recently, and I saw him have a bad game, and he wasn't reading the defense very well, and he missed a wide open AJ Brown, and he's missing guys low, he's missing guys high. Oh, can he do it? And so it's just go out there, let it rip, show everybody, shut everybody up, and just show that AJ Brown connection's there, Devonta Smith's there, everything.
Yeah,
Well,
and not for nothing, that Carolina team is not as bad as people say. I mean, I watched them. They're a good team. They're an up-and-coming team. I mean, Kansas City had to kick a last-second field goal to beat them. So it's not like they're playing some total doormat. And I think, that led to it too. So I think people are shocked at the fact that they lost to, or they almost lost to Carolina. But they're, in my opinion, they're no slouch.
No, Carolina's a fine team, but I do also think they could have absolutely run away with it if Jalen Hurts didn't have a terrible game. And I do want to say Jalen Hurts had a terrible game.
I agree with that. I think that's fine. And I think the hypotheticals of, can he do this down the road? This is something that Tommy was talking about too. If we're 7-6, I think these hypothetical conversations are definitely in play, right? But we're 11-2. We don't need to do the hypotheticals because we've answered them. Yeah, we can win this way. Yeah, we can win with good defense. Yeah, Jalen can help us win. Yeah, Saquon can help us win. We've done that to be 11-2. So the hypotheticals don't mean anything here. And for the people that are ruffled up, or whatever terminology you want to use about AJ, I ask you this. It's funny how we have such a short memory. Do you remember when we were 2-2 and Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson went into the coach's office and complained and said, this is how we need to run the ball more. This is what offense we need to do. What the hell is the difference between that and what AJ's doing? Saying something that isn't right, wanting to fix it and wanting to be better, and then rallying as a team and getting better. But because the beloved, fun-loving, fat guys up front that are always a great O-line, that we've had for years, say it, and because Saquon's setting these records, it's okay. Why don't we see what happens after this now that AJ's voicing his frustration? Those guys voiced their frustration and y'all loved it. But now you don't. Don't be like that. You can't have it both ways.
Well, I would definitely like to address the point that you were making, Jake, earlier with Chase U. And throughout this season, we've consistently maligned this team for starting off slow, right? As a result, we've been down in almost every single game. Not every single game. There's probably been 2 or 3, but I mean, you're talking being down in 9 separate games or so. And we've come back all but twice, right? So, I mean, this isn't something that I don't need to wait until the fourth quarter to figure out if the guy's got a clutch gene. I know the guy's cool, calm, and level-headed, and no situation is above him. Right? We can go down 10, 11 points, and we know that just running our offense, it's only a matter of when, right?
But I also think the time that we go down 10 or 11 points, we're going down 10 or 11 points in the first half. We haven't seen a situation when we're down 10 or 11 points in the fourth quarter, and I think that's a huge distinction.
Jake, why do you think that is?
Jake,
we're good. We're 11-2. We're good. That's why we haven't been down 10 points in the fourth quarter.
100%.
Come on, This is why I'm confident in this team, and I wasn't last year when we had to rely on Jalen every fourth quarter, and he brought us back. Didn't he have 7 straight games where he brought us back from double digits last year? And then that's not sustainable. It's terrible. Our defense was terrible. We were giving up 30 points last year. We gave up over 14 times in our 19 games that we played. 14 out of 19. This year, 4 times opponents have scored over 20 against us. Way different team. To take away Saquon, you have to dedicate more players to the box too. He's human, but he's not going to have a bad game against a low level, when no one's paying attention to him. So when they load that box up and stop him, it's going to make throwing the ball easier. I just don't see a way that anyone could think having somewhat of a bad game means that there's going to be a situation where if they're down 10 in the fourth quarter and Jalen Hurts has 2 different shoes on, that come on, we're a good team. All you're showing me is that you doubt this team. Well, what happens if this happens? We're going to win the game, period. We're going to win the game. We're going to be in control the whole game. We can do it.
No, you want to talk about not sustainable? Not sustainable is assuming that every game we're going to be in control of. It's not doubting a team when it's we've seen what can happen. And we haven't been down double digits in the fourth quarter, but you can't say we're never going to. We are a great team. We're one of the best teams in the NFL. Top 3 team without a doubt.
We're down double digits in the fourth quarter, then play better. I'm not going to blame the quarterbback at that point. I mean, maybe.
It all depends how we got to that point. All I'm saying.
So now where there's more scenarios, it's too much unpredictable things to worry about that.
What are you talking about?
Having a bad game. Every quarterback has had a bad game like that this year. Every single one. Every single quarter, all the MVP candidates, all of them, they've all had a game like that this year.
Yes.
So
who's disagreeing with you there?
So what are we saying? What if they're down 10 in the fourth quarter? Can they that's you know what I mean? You could say it about.
No, I don't know what you mean, Tom. I don't know what you mean.
No.
I'm saying he's played great this season. He has played phenomenal in many games. Thankfully, I'm saying as a good thing, we haven't had to have him come back from 10 points late in the game. But we've seen stretches where, and I could say the same thing about any player. Cooper DeJean, I can talk about him getting exposed by Thielen for 90% of the game. And I can talk to him about the interception where him being tight on Thielen and the pressure that Jalen Carter forced an overthrow. I can talk about anybody having some down plays and all. Quarterback's the most important position in football, probably the most important position in sports. When he's had these bad stretches, these bad games, the first half of almost every game, we've said he's arguably been in a number of games the worst player on either side of the field in the first half of a couple of these games. And then the second half, he comes out and is the second coming of Joe Montana and going out there and he'll go 12 of 12 for 150 yards. But I don't know what you're saying, but saying like, oh, you doubt Jalen Hurts, you doubt quarterback, you doubt all this. Yeah, he's given me good reason to doubt him in various times throughout the season. And it's not sustainable, talk about sustainability, to assume that, oh, they're never going to be down. And no, I'm not saying if they lose a game, God forbid, or if they're down in a game, that it is 100% solely on Jalen Hurts. But I'm not going to sit here and say nobody's above accountability. That's not what we do in this podcast.
But did you just say he would come out in the second half of games and go 12 of 12 and turn into Joe Montana? So why wouldn't you? Yes, but that is not sustainable to assume that every single time he has a bad first half that he's going to have an all-pro second half.
But it also may not be sustainable that we
going down 2 scores isn't sustainable.
Yeah,
we haven't seen it. We literally, so it just kind of goes into, and I'm going to play armchair psychologist here, but okay, if we haven't seen this situation based on the information that we have already, what do we think these outcomes are? And this is an 11-2 team. This is a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who hasn't had a complete bad game until really this week. Maybe you count maybe the Bucks game, right? So two out of 13 games, right? We're talking, I mean, what's that, 16% of the time that he has a bad game? I can't run with having these doubts until I have some evidence to prove that he's either got it or he doesn't. Up until this point, he's been 86% good. So that's all the information I have. I'm going to say, he's probably going to be all right. This is a team that has been playing better throughout the course of the game. That's the information I have. So if just because I haven't seen the guy go down 20 points to see how he reacts, I can't say that I think it's going to be negative based on the sample size that we have. He's going to be fine more often than not. He's not going to be perfect. This team, there's not a single team in the NFL that's unbeatable. And that's the fantastic part about this shit. It's just going to have to come down to who's in this dogfight. But I can't go around saying I have my doubts. Just because that, I have that.
I'm not saying I doubt it. I'm saying we haven't seen it, and I'd be curious to see.
I'm not going to fault the guy who haven't seen it.
It's because we're good. That's why we haven't seen it. We're good.
We are. We're great.
I mean, it's listen, after a game like this, where's your mindset?
We didn't see Nick Foles' magic until the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. So we didn't think that was going to happen either. So there's always that ability to perform on the highest stage. And I think the first quarter issues aren't just a Jalen thing. I think that's
not at all
thing for some reason. And you could talk about does the psychological aspect creep in there? Like when you're around the 40 to 35 yard line, is Jalen maybe pressing a little bit because maybe he doesn't think that we're going to kick a field goal here because Jake hasn't been able to hit from that distance, all year. Or maybe I need to get a couple more yards here or make a bigger play than I need to because maybe that reliability from the kicker and Sirianni doesn't trust him isn't there either. There's so many factors that probably go into play there that we don't know, but you could take Nick Foles as the example of we never knew he had that up his ass, but he sure saved it for the right time. But the thing is about Hurts is we have seen it. We have seen the greatness. We have seen him on the biggest stage. And I think that's where he performs the most. So while I'm frustrated with the way he played against the Panthers and the offense as a whole did, I think I'm not worried that it's not there, if that makes sense.
Some games you fall asleep in the NFL, and that's kind of what it was. It was a bad team. I think Doc pointed it out. 3-win team that's playing way better than they are record-wise. One of those situations where your record doesn't really say how you're playing at the time. So I think at the end of the day, what I was saying to Jake when I was ranting about the other quarterback, every quarterback in the league has a game that gives you he didn't have to do much. He had a bad game, but they still won. And it's if we're going to look at it in a microscope like that, every time Jalen Hurts has a bad game, we have to question whether or not he can come back if we're down 10 in the fourth quarter of a playoff game and Saquon's getting shut down. And it's easier said than done at the end of the day because of the talent we have. You have to change how you're playing defense against us, and it's going to make it easier on him to throw the ball at certain moments if they're focused on Saquon. And, I think AJ was just going back to Joey, just voicing what he wants to see change about the offense. And it was okay when the offensive lineman did it, like he said. It's okay for AJ to do it. They're all just trying to get better. So I think if the situation comes down to it, I think AJ and Jalen will get on the same page and get it done. I'm all in on these guys this year.
No, it's a
I feel
special
bad
team.
for the Steelers. I feel bad for the Steelers secondary this Sunday. I'm just going to put it.
We're motivated. We're motivated. It's going to add a lot of juice.
And I wanted to bring up something funny real quick because I know I don't have a lot of time and you boys can continue the podcast. I wanted to bring up something funny. So I heard George Pickens is doubtful for this game. He may not play, and I'm sure we'll talk to Doc Mesa about that injury. But we all know Pickens isn't right in the brain, right? Like he wants to UFC everybody out there on the field when something doesn't happen. Can you imagine CJ talking trash to Pickens in that game and what that would be like if he was playing? Pickens might just try to kill him for real. On the
Quinion has a little bit of that motor mouth, low key.
He does, but CJ's a little different.
CJ is voted the most annoying player to play against by all the anonymous poll to NFL players. CJ was the runaway most annoying player on the field.
I just think Pickens might, if he was playing, he might try to kill him after a routine 2-yard run play. Just, Odell and Josh Norman type stuff. Just crazy. But anyway, that was my thought.
I'm kind of glad Pickens is, going to.
Hell yeah, I am too.
Get healthy, Pickens. I don't need it.
I'm good with that.
We'll take you without him. Whatever.
No, exactly. Doc, speaking of injuries, thankfully, a lot of the ones that we are kind of dealing with seem to subside over the past couple of weeks. Devonta Smith coming back, Britton Covey coming back, a number of guys getting healthy and everything. Dallas Goedert now placed on the IR with a knee injury. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't know specifics, but I think when you start saying that, I mean, one of two things. Either they kind of are saying we don't really need him till the playoffs and we don't want to risk him re-aggravating it, because I haven't really seen anything about what's going on. But when they put him on IR, there's obviously something potentially structurally going on that's limiting him. So I think again, they're just kind of putting him on the shelf and not risking a re-injury, because I guess they feel with Calcaterra they have a good enough player at tight end that can get him through these last 4 games. 2 of, some of them may not even be meaningful at all. So I think it's just a way to kind of put him on ice till we really need him in the playoffs.
Do you think our opponents, being the Cowboys, the Commanders, and the Giants, plays any role in them putting him on IR rather than him trying to come out week 16, 17, 18, maybe in a more, crucial game?
Yeah, I think that's the point. You have the luxury of being in a position where you're almost, not officially, but you're kind of locked into the 2 seed. So if you think of it that way, you really don't have to win any more games. Well, you may have to win 1, but I don't think him playing. I think they're afraid of the risk of having him in the games. I think it's afraid of, he's got something that's manageable, and if we had to use him, we would. But they're kind of thinking the safe thing is to just put him on ice. If they put him on IR, he's not going to be like, I'm good. So you won't get the pressure from him to play because he knows he's out for 4 games.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I got a question for you too, Medical. So this is probably a name that you haven't heard of in a while, but a player by the name of James Bradberry was a player for the Eagles. I know a lot of you probably forgot about that name. But at the beginning of the year, it was told that he had about a 6-week lower leg injury. They hit us with the hockey talk, lower body injury. Lower leg injury. James Bradberry, 6 weeks. Is there anything that you have heard or know about this? Or is this one of those, James, you're still hurt after looking at Quinion, Coop, and Slay and Rogers? James, we want you to take extra time to get that thing healed.
It's funny you say that, because I was thinking on Sunday, I was like, well, they still have Bradberry there, getting thin in safety, and then CJ got hurt, and I'm like, well, who's next? And I thought he might make an appearance, but obviously CJ would rather play, the walking wounded than let him out there. Yeah, I think this is just kind of I think either his confidence is shot or their confidence in him is shot. So they're just like, hey, you're just going to ride the pine. I haven't seen anything about him, and I think that's the case. They're so thin at safety, and yet they won't even have him out there.
Not even an update, right? There hasn't.
No, I haven't seen anything.
Did they take him off IR?
I'm looking it up now.
I don't think they took him off IR. He might be healthy, but they're just he's probably going to be out for the season. I think he's done.
I'm looking it up right now.
There's no more such thing. I don't even know if I'm speaking right. No, there isn't such thing anymore as before. You used to have PUP, and then if you were on IR, you were out for the year.
Yeah,
now then there
yeah.
was short-term IR. Now it's IR is minimum of 4 weeks. So even though it's minimum of 4 weeks, the maximum can just be whatever you need, right? Like I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right.
You go
So
on
they can just literally just keep him there, and unless
if they activate his 21-day practice window, he has like a certain allotted amount of time, like that amount of time.
Yeah, if he doesn't get added to the 53 in 21 days and he's out for the year. No, he is still on the IR. The last update from the team was 3 months ago saying Bradberry lower leg was placed on IR. The last update was when they placed him on IR.
Yeah, so he's done.
that's unheard of from the
No
Eagles.
way
Man.
they're going to burn like a roster spot on a guy that's not going to play.
But also, like, what reporter is going to be like, oh, hey, Vic, while you have time, can you give us an update on Bradberry? Like, you're not going to have anybody asking for a Bradberry update as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've hidden that really well. Like, nobody even remembers he was on the team. Like, everyone expected.
I thought when CJ Gigi went down, I was like, oh, safety. They've kind of always used Maddox as that slot replacement. Maybe Bradberry's going to come out here, but nope, he's still just dead.
Yep.
Sidney Brown's out with a knee injury as well. Again, I don't know much about it. I don't know if you knew anything additional that might shed some light on another safety out there.
No, I haven't heard anything either, but I don't think it's anything too dramatic. I mean, he's coming off that ACL, and I think if there was any concern about that knee, they would have thrown him on IR too. So I think that's just something. He may have tweaked it. You know, a lot of times you're coming back, you may overdo it or get it swollen, and they're just being precautious.
Oh, I hear you on that. Britton Covey out with a neck injury. Usually those, when it's not on IR, is something that's not overly serious. It's something you got to take a little extra rest on. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, a lot of it's based on history. If this is his first time, a lot of times these guys get stingers and stuff where the nerves get irritated. You just got to let it rest, make sure he's got good range of motion, good strength. And again, they got good guys that can cover punts and kicks. So it's not urgent to get him out there. So I think they're just being precautious. But yeah, if there was anything significant, anything involving the nerve or the bone, he would have been on IR.
Yeah. Now, Doc, I'm going to ask you a Britton Covey question that I asked the guys last week on the podcast. With us being thin in a number of different positions, now safety you can possibly add to that list. Is Britton Covey a guy that you would put on your 53-man roster when essentially his only role is punt returner? And you said it there. We have a number of different guys that can field that position pretty well. Do you feel as though him being an above-average punt returner, sometimes a top 5 elite punt returner, is worthy of holding a roster spot rather than giving a little bit more depth to some needed positions?
No, not when you're in a position where you're going for a playoff. I think he's expendable, to be honest with you. I've seen good things from Cooper, and I don't like him back there, but he can handle the job admirably. And if you need a spot for somebody else, I'd make him expendable for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think right now the problem is it's like who's out there. I kind of joked, like, not even joked. I was like, look, if what's it, Shaq Leonard, who reportedly, or Shaq Barrett reportedly, he came out of retirement with the reported interest of joining the Eagles. Yeah, if they were able to go out and get him, maybe in that situation it would. But if you're just adding some no name that has no interest around the entire league just to be a guy, then maybe you leave Britton Covey on there. You don't want to throw any kind of chemistry out there. It seems like he's a well-liked guy in the locker room. But if you do have the addition to add the opportunity to add somebody that would be a vital piece to this team, like a Linville Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, when they added them during that run, that'd be a time where I think he'd be the first guy on the chopping block.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just have to have the availability. I mean, the Chiefs just took somebody out of retirement to be a D-back. So, I mean, it's doable, but I would definitely, you'd have to have the right piece.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Today's episode is brought to you by Tackle Up. Tackle Up is a premier, high-quality fishing shirt, lifestyle apparel company. They're providing the best quality shirts. You see us wearing them all the time. You saw the Double B, Double D, Bring Back Dollar Dog shirt, and we're going to be debuting a Red October shirt here soon. Head on over to tackleup.net. Use promo code TALKIN215 for 15% off site-wide. And even if you're not getting one of those shirts, they have Who Rags, they have Grundens, all kinds of other incredible fishing apparel, all the things you need. I understand winter is coming, and it might not be the best time for you to be getting fishing stuff right now for you to use, but guess what? It's also coming. Christmas, Hanukkah, all of the other gift-giving seasons where you can give your loved ones the exact gift that they need, which is a Tackle Up shirt. TackleUp.net. Let's do it. Like we talked about Pittsburgh this week, and then we're finishing the season. We have what? Commanders game on the road, and then Giants and Cowboys are both at home, as well as Steelers at home. So we've got a very local final stretch of the season. We don't hop on another plane for, hopefully until the Super Bowl. If all things fall right, we could have every game go through Lincoln Financial Field. So we have a nice little stretch coming up here. What are your thoughts heading into the Steelers game?
Well, like I said, I hope it's a rebound game. I think Steelers are always tough. Their defense is good. It's going to be a good challenge. But I think it's going to involve and not for nothing, Russell Wilson always gives us fits. So I just don't like. I mean, he may be at the end of his career or whatever, but he's always been an eagle killer, and I think it's good that they do have some injuries that they're dealing with. And I hope we get up on them early. And really, I think that part of the
team getting up on the team early, that's funny.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it's got to happen sooner or later, right? It's inevitable.
No, I'm just messing with you.
It's inevitable. But, I look at it this way. I think part of the Carolina problem was it was a trap game. And I think guys were looking forward to this game because they want to prove their worth too. They want to say, everybody's saying you're 11-2, but who have you played kind of thing. Less now that they beat the Ravens, but I think they want to show that they can beat the elite or the near elite teams in the league, and convincingly. So yeah. I think they're going to be up for it. I think it's going to be a great game.
No, for sure. Sean? Tom?
I'm excited to watch this game. I think Russ is getting more and more comfortable in that Pittsburgh system. They've looked pretty good as of late. I mean, if you had asked me 2-3 weeks ago, I was saying there's no way the Steeler team is going to have the firepower, the offense to keep up, right? Not only with this defense, but with our offense. And then after last week, you're going, okay, well, Steelers can put up some points. And maybe the Eagles might struggle at times, but no, it's going to be inclement weather at home. I think it really plays into the hands of the Birds, just a knockdown, drag out kind of.
I like that. Yeah, to be honest, wow, I'm at a loss for words for how excited I am for this game. Number one, number two, I want to go back to something Doc said earlier and pointed out that the Eagles are pretty much fixed into at worst the 2 seed, and I've talked about this on Twitter and said this before. And I think it really is a good point to say that they can kind of take a deep breath and just play a little more loosey-goosey and throw the ball around a little more, probably just to get it on film, to make people shut up, whatever reason, whatever dramatic reason. But ultimately, because they have the talent, they can do it. And maybe just to get a little confidence back in themselves after having a couple lackluster games. And before in the season, 6-7 weeks ago, when we were 2-2, when we were like, man, this team's not even healthy. Can they get back? We were in that mode of we need to manufacture some wins. We need to run the ball, control the clock, help our young defense who just got shredded by Tampa Bay. And we did that 10 yards at a time type thing. But I think now with the fact that we've earned the right in December to play a little bit more risky football and kind of show off a little bit and still probably end up winning a couple of the games and getting, at least the 2 seed. It's a perfect situation. I think there's a lot to look forward to, not only with this big matchup, but the rest of this month into January and then into the playoffs. So I think they'll inspire hope back into us. And, I think it starts this week with a huge game against Pittsburgh, against an elite opponent.
Oh, yeah. If we win this week and the Commanders lose, we clinch the NFC East, which would then clinch the number 2 seed. And then you have
the Commanders play.
Let me pull that up.
They're coming off the bye. So,
yeah. Commanders are playing the Saints. Saints have been playing decent football of late.
I'm not going to hold my
car
breath.
got hurt.
I'm not holding my I'm not holding my breath here.
I think the magic number to the 2 seed is just 2 wins for us now. Flat.
Oh, yeah. No matter what, even if 2 wins and we lock in the 2 seed. Yep.
So out of the next 4 games, I mean, we the thing is, we're playing against teams that aren't even playing for anything. Dallas, the Giants, those are pretty much gimmies. The Steelers and Washington, that's a different story. They're both playing for something. But you look at some of the other schedule, you look at the Lions schedule.
Well, there's a good chance the Dallas and Giants game, we're also not playing for anything.
Yeah,
there's a good chance that we're not playing for anything either.
That's true too. We might just set our guys there, but if they need a win for whatever reason, you know what I mean? You have these games that are pretty favorable. You're at home. You're playing against divisional opponents that aren't even taking it serious anymore at that point. So it's they have the ability to go out there, try to win the game, obviously, but throw the ball around a little bit, mix things up, get teams back off balance of what you're going to do, because we've been doing.
I would love for them to go and give teams so much more to have to worry about.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like they're gonna
Just
have
give
to
'em
work back
fits.
up to that. They're gonna, and they can take this month to work back up to that. I think. That's what
Exactly. Give me a Jahan Dotson 200-yard game. Just
No,
give him
listen,
somebody else to have to
you
worry
take
about.
the last month, you pound the rock, you win as many games as you're going to win. You go into the playoffs with a clean slate. Nobody's known what you're doing for the last month and a half other than shove the ball down their throats. And then you
That's
hit them
fair.
with all razzle dazzle. Why not?
but I'll say this though, it could also help to give Saquon a little bit of a lighter workload over these next 4 weeks to keep him fresh for that playoff run. He's actually on pace for the most touches in his career. So I mean, rightfully so. Like, look at the season he's having, and I'm sure he's feeling fresh. I'm going to say that, but I would love to see them, work in some Grant more and Jahan, like Jake was talking about, and just kind of just mix it up. Give some guys Kenny Gainwell, get him a little involved, and just see what we can do. Be like those Eagles teams back in the early 2000s that McNabb would hit 8 different receivers in a game.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see something like an offense like that, but we'll see if they can do
Get
it.
a big CJ Ozuma game.
Yeah. I want to see some quick about Jalen early in games. Like, get him in rhythm. I want to see some quick, like, tempo stuff, some quick hitters, like and then take some strikes, take some shots downfield when you have the chance. So,
and I want to see some non-designed strikes downfield where it's not like the only 2 routes are the the go routes, the little stutter go, stop and goes. I want to see some. He goes through and just lets her rip, middle of the field, like guys, a ton of different options, and just see him just let it loose.
Yeah.
And to Doc's point, I get it. He's playing that I don't want to turn it over because turnovers equals losses. Right. In games that Jalen Hurts hasn't turned the ball over, I think there's something crazy like 17-1 in games where Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over. And that doesn't mean that they don't have a wide receiver fumble, a running back fumble, a muff punt. That's just games that he doesn't. So I'm sure that's in his head. It's like, hey, look, if I don't turn the ball over, we win games 98% of the time.
Right.
And so it's like, yeah, you have like, oh, do I really want to risk it out there? Do I want to throw it out there? Because games that I turn the ball over, and I don't have their record in games that he does turn the ball over. I'm sure it's much closer to 500, maybe slightly below, because they're an extremely winning franchise with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback. But it's got to be in his mind. And then to Coach's point, Jake Elliott's having this random year. Well, it's not random. Every other year, Jake Elliott stinks. If you look at his stats, every other year he does this. Next year, he's going to go back to making 34 of 35 kicks and being clutch from 50 plus. Every other year, he stinks. So, but he's got to think like, oh, we're at the 35. It's 3rd and 7.
Yeah.
We're going to be pressing here. We're going to have to really get it because this is going to be a turnover.
Yeah, no, I think the going back to the point of him having that turnover stat in his head, I think it's really like dating back to last year. He really did have like situations where he did bring us back and he was aggressive and hitting. The Bills game was unbelievable, and there was moments like that. And then as the season wore on, it was like the Seattle game where he was going deep to Quez and AJ to end, and Julian Love picked him off twice, and that ended the game. And you keep, there's so many examples of that. I mean, and then you go into this year as well, and it was like the same thing. Like the Green Bay game, we almost lost because he threw that rolling out, throwing into the end zone to AJ Brown, and it was like a slippery field or whatever, and it was just a fluttery ball. And it's like, well, dude, you don't flutter a ball into the end zone. Just settle for what what you can get there and make it a game. So I think he's played the game within the game a lot more, which has in turn limited the big play.
I would love to see him go out there and ball. I'd love to see a 350-yard passing game, 4 touchdowns, get another AJ Brown. What do you have? 3 touchdowns against the Steelers last time, or was it 2?
It was 3.
Loved it. Love to see it. Would love nothing more than deep shots, just him looking poised, getting rid of the ball in under 3 seconds, hitting guys in stride. I'd love to see it. And obviously we know he can. We've seen him drop balls that it's just dropping him in a bucket with a man in his face down the sideline, just where only his guy can get it. We know he has it in him.
Yep.
We've seen it. To Sean's point, though, the bad memories stick a hell of a lot more than the good ones. When you haven't won a Super Bowl, the bad ones stick there a hell of a lot more. And so it's just tough when you see these stretches in games like last game. It just brings them all right back up to the forefront. Yeah, and then we luckily haven't had a game where we've need to see it. but obviously he has the skill and the ability to do it. And hopefully we never have to rely on a 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter. And this team is good enough that there's a good chance we might not have to.
And you never want to see having to rely on that. But, we saw it a lot last year. And like we said, how it turned out. We ended up, it eventually will run out. If you put your quarterback, maybe you will, maybe you won't. And whether it's Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, if you put any of those guys in a 10-0 hole, a 10-point hole in the fourth quarter, there's a pretty good chance that, the odds of them winning are a lot less than if they had the 10-point lead, right? So,
even in our terrible stretch last year, what was the big problem? It was the defense.
Yeah.
Right. Cardinals, we went late. Seattle, we went late. Like, we were going late with these teams. We were putting up points. The problem wasn't Jalen Hurts putting up points. No. It was we couldn't stop a damn nosebleed.
Right. So that's the difference this year.
Yeah,
is that
we
have a damn good defense. We have a top 3 defense.
Yeah, but all you remember are the just that the team sucked and the vibes were terrible. All you remember is how you felt, man. Yeah. You don't remember that guy was willing this team just into games in the first place, right? He was the sole reason we were in the games, right? So, but you don't remember that. You just remember that the team was falling apart.
Right.
And we've seen it before. We haven't seen it much this year, and it's in every year league, so there's some credence to it. But
that's a good thing, though, that we haven't seen us down in the fourth quarter by double-digit points. But Sean, you made a good point earlier. We have been starting games slow, and so can Jalen Hurts bring us back from late in a game with his arm? We've seen it before, sure, but it comes down to it's just like a flip of the coin of that game. Will he do it or will he not? So there's a lot that goes into it, but at the end of the day, I don't think a bad game in December or any month in the regular season is something where it's like, well, he had this bad game, so now I'm questioning whether or not he can do something else.
It does speak to some extent to the 2-minute offense, right? When it's not clearly there's no mix of rushing and passing the ball.
And it's just like they're throwing the ball, right?
We're the second highest scoring team with 2 minutes or less left to go in the first half. I understand it's the first half, but the second half, again, we're seeing Kenny Pickett snaps. We're seeing, where they don't need to, but in that 2-minute offense at the end of the first half, we're the second highest scoring team. And I believe we might have tied the Ravens with the first because we scored a touchdown at the end of the first half this past week. So we're either tied for first or right there, second place with the most 2-minute or less points in the first half.
Right. And if you put any athlete, any quarterback, any baseball player in the box and any goalie in net, and he has an idea of what the opponent is doing, it's always going to be a little harder. So yeah, obviously Jalen Hurts, if it's predictable that we have to pass, we're down in a game, and it's like, man, we know we have to rely on Hurts. So comes down to, do you believe in him or not? And so the
tough thing is it wasn't predictable that he had to pass, and he struggled last week. And obviously you're going to remember the most recent ones over anything else. Right. So that's just the tough part.
Right. And when you analyze a game, the last one always sticks out. But like Sean said, it's like a lot of preconceived notions about what you thought in 2021. There's those like, oh man, if I see Jalen Hurts have a bad game, it immediately brings back the narratives that I had. Oh, can he read a defense, this and that? So it's like, listen, do you believe in him or not?
It was the perfect storm. It's a team that only has 3 wins on the year. But is playing pretty good ball as of late. You heard Mailata speak a little bit after the game, talking about, listen, they were running a bunch of stuff that we had never seen on tape before. They were pulling some tricks out of the hat against the Eagles, and that's what you're going to get with you when you're.
And they had some luck. They had a batted ball in fourth down.
Luck. They had some bad refereeing. It was kind of a perfect storm of making this team look worse than it is, and people were waiting. People were waiting to jump at Nick Sirianni, at Jalen Hurts. Like, these are people that aren't looking to root for the team necessarily, right? You have that Negadelphian that is just looking for any reason to bitch and moan, and this team gave him something to bitch and to moan about. And then Brandon Graham goes on the radio and completely just gaffes, just has a total brain fart, something that is like unbecoming of a professional that he is, right? And just did something that I don't know. I really just think it was a brain fart. Like, the guy just misspoke in a situation that he shouldn't have said anything nearly to that extent. And now we have to talk about this for the next 4 days until this game.
Right.
Doc, confidence level on the Eagles team finishing out the regular season, confidence level on Hurts, and then final thought. What do you got?
Number one, extremely confident. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you see, like last year, my confidence level was shot. I walked into every game being like, how are we going to lose this one after the Buffalo game? But this is completely different. That team is ready. They're primed. I have extreme confidence. They should beat the Steelers. They should win the division, and they should be the number 2 seed. I don't know if they'll be able to catch the Lions. I was very upset about how that Packers game ended because that was our shot. But they still could lose to the Vikings and the Bills, who are pissed because they lost to the Rams. So they could get 2 more losses. So I think if that's the case, I have confidence they'll run the table. I think the season is bright. I think they're going to still play well. They're the team nobody wants to play. I don't care what anybody says. Chiefs, baloney. The Chiefs are the Eagles last year. So I think we're the team that everybody does not want to see on their schedule. So I'm extremely confident. And my thought is, we're going to see a little aerial attack on Sunday, and I can't wait.
Hell yeah. Doc, really appreciate your time and your insight. As always, head on over to DellaOrtho.com or give them a call, 302-655-9494 to schedule your appointment with Dr. Mesa or any of their other extremely specialized and skilled physicians. Sean?
Jake?
Final thought?
Final thought. I was really hoping that the coach was going to be on for my final thought, because final thought, RIP, any chance Jeff Hoffman comes out to something in the way. Philly signed Jordan Romano, right? A really good high leverage righty coming out of the bullpen, all but pretty much saying that, as if you didn't know already, that Jeff Hoffman's not going to be on this team next year in any way.
Toronto had a pretty sick walkout in Toronto. Talk about a guy with a cool walkout, song and everything. It was pretty sweet. Our buddy Ben Silver shared his walkout on his Twitter. You got to check it out.
I'm actually unfamiliar, so I hope it aligns with what one of us were hoping for in a closer.
Exactly. Tom, final thought?
Man, 11-2, no complaints from me. Just, I know the work's being put in. We're in the lab right now. Product will be on the field Sunday. Fly Eagles fly. There
it is. My final thought, no better time to bring it up. While Chick-fil-A may be closed on Sunday, A.J. Brown, it's always open.